today's episode, the first of many, we discuss the Fireground Company, where it came from and where it's heading. We discuss the 3 pillars of the brand and what you can expect from this podcast.
The Fireground Company Podcast.
Okay, so this is our first episode on the Fireground Company Podcast. And the idea for this company and this podcast is something we've been kicking around for a long time. And the pieces are kind of starting to come together now. So let's just dive right in. And Cap, if you can just talk a little bit about the Fireground Company.
Sure. I think really it starts with leadership, tradition, culture. We've talked about this a lot between the two of us. And if you look at the symbol that we have, that Maltese cross, it says it right there. And that's going to be the focus. That's going to be the focus of what we do and where we're going. And if you have these 3 things working together, that's a powerful force for any group. I mean, if you have good leadership, you have some traditions to back that up, and you have a culture that's invested in that man, it just makes things go so much better. You're pushing harder on the calls, you're working harder in the firehouse, and you're having more fun. And I know we talked about the more fun thing a lot, and it's just, if you like the job, you like the actual tactics of it and everything else, you add the fun component to it in the firehouse, and it's so much, I don't know, man, it just makes it enjoyable to come to work, and it adds that next little, that icing on the cake. So that's what we're trying to do, big picture. There's more to it, but that's the guiding principle or whatever, if you want to say.
Mm-hmm. And having said that, we've noticed that a lot of those things that make this job great and make this the job that is coveted by a lot of people and a lot of people want to do, whatever that is, it's disappearing in a lot of fire departments.
I agree. And I mean, we're struggling with this stuff. I mean, we really are. We're struggling, maybe not everywhere. It's not, there's some places, some departments that I'm sure are, they're doing a great job. They're keeping things up, and they're not having these issues. I think a lot of places are, to some degree. It's going to be different everywhere because, of course, people are different. All the firefighters are different, but it's disappearing to some degree. And maybe you can't articulate it, but you can feel it. And a lot of places, the department management, along with society, has said, past leadership styles and the past traditions, especially the culture, were either bad or not needed in present times. But that's your foundation. That's your history. And it's so much deeper than just the uniforms that we wear and the traditions that we have, the stuff you see. It goes deeper than that. It's the feeling, it's the driving force. And if you don't have that stuff right, man, it's just, there's something off. So I want to try and get back to that, for myself and for some of the newer firefighters, and figure out how we went off the rails with some of this stuff. How do we correct this? How do we take some of that stuff that we previously had or have heard about or have been told about? How do we do that today in today's world? That's the hard question. And that's what I want to dive into. That's what I think about a lot. And when I'm at work, I just want that atmosphere, and I want to help provide that for the guys in the firehouse. I think the problem also is we're becoming individuals. We're losing that group, that cohesive, we're scattering. And some of that's the way things are built and done in the fire department today, where you have the individual rooms, which there's good and bad. I used to I've changed my thoughts on that, but we scatter and we go to the individual rooms, we go to these different places, we focus on outside activities, and that's just tearing us apart. Even if it's subtle, even if it's not a big thing, we start moving away from that group cohesion and that culture that's important to build when you're in the firehouse, and then to take with you when you run calls. They're not disconnected. There is a connection there. If you have that group cohesion in the firehouse, it also is going to pay off on the fire ground. And the most important thing you can do is when you're training and you're sweating together, that builds that teamwork. But also a lot of the small tasks every day that we do as a team, washing the rigs, cleaning the firehouse, taking care of the tools together, that also pays off later on when it's you're on a scene, you're running an emergency, you're trying to do your job. So it pays off. It really does. These little things pay off.
The subtlety of that is something I think we notice first in the firehouse, right? Administrations, they don't see the need for it really as explicitly as we do. And the people, the community we serve, they don't see it, or they may not even be aware that it's in danger, right? So it has to be from us. I think one of the things about this culture and the traditions is it gets kind of a bad stigma
Yeah.
because it's this macho thing, and it's really not about that. The the tradition and the culture that we speak of is not just something that some of us want. We believe that it's something we need to perform at our highest level. So, with that being said, where do we go from here?
Well, what you just said, as far as it has to come from us, I agree 100%. Of course, maybe you're going to have a great fire chief or some chiefs higher up, deputy chiefs, whatever it may be, assistant chiefs that are awesome. That's not how it is everywhere. And they're not in the firehouse. Even if they are and they're really buying into all that, they're not in the firehouse and they're usually not running the calls every day. So that's why it has to come from the firefighters and the officers that are in the firehouse every day, running calls, that are building this back up or maintaining it depending on where you are in your situation. That's really where it is. So it has to come from us. And a lot of times it's going to be small things. You don't have to go into work and say, we're going to get after it. We're going to have a great culture, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do all that and ram it down everyone's throat. It starts with little things that you can do, and those build on those little things, and it pays off. A lot of people are gonna, if you come in like that and you're like, this is what we're gonna do, blah, they're gonna recoil from that. They're not gonna. Some people are not gonna want to be a part of that. So a lot of times it works better just to do the little things, get some buy-in, and then build on that the next time, the next tour, whatever that may be. So think about that. Think about how you can do that, how you can take some of this stuff that we talk about or we bring up and trying to pass on to you if you haven't heard it. And how do I do that in my world? It's going to be a little different for everyone. I understand that. I'll see stuff on videos, or someone will tell me a story about another fire department. I think to myself, that's not going to work for me. It's not going to work in the culture that we have in this department that we're working in. But I can take that and tweak it a little and take something from it that maybe I can use to make things a little better, or boost the guys up, or help us on a call, whatever it may be. So that's kind of the trick to all that. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to pass on information to other firefighters here. That's, again, what the podcast is about. We don't have all the answers. I'm not saying we do, but we have some answers. And those answers can be helpful for people that are open to the message and buy in. And I think about, who is it for? So who is this for? It's for a bunch of different people, but you could be on an island. Maybe you're a firefighter or an officer in a firehouse, and you're on an island and no one else cares about this stuff. And you just want to hear it from someone else and say, hey man, there's other people that are thinking about this. And maybe I just need that encouragement. It's nice to hear some of the same stuff I think about that's coming from other people. It's nice to hear that those guys are struggling with the same problems right now that I'm having. That's one person. Maybe you're the company and you're knocking it out of the park for the most part, and you're just looking to tweak a few things, just maybe hear a different perspective. Cool. Hopefully we give you a different perspective, or we share someone else's perspective that we heard with you. So that's another group. So it's people that are just open to different ideas, and maybe want some help, or also, whatever, want to have some fun with the job. You just want to enjoy a conversation about some of the silly stuff in the firehouse that is great going on at the kitchen table and everything else. And cool, that's what this can be also, because I don't want us to be locked in, and we're not going to be locked into just talking about tactics, just talking about leadership. We're going to touch on a bunch of different things and hopefully keep it interesting and just go from there where we think we need to go. So really, to sum up what I'm trying to say with that is, if you want encouragement, you want tips to help you with the job, you just want to have some fun, like you're sitting at the kitchen table, hopefully you're going to enjoy this podcast. And I think this podcast is going to be for you. So that's what I think we're trying to introduce here.
You said we don't have all of the answers, and we don't, and we're not pretending that we do. I think one of the other things we want to do here is just have conversations about some of this stuff and get the conversations going.
Yeah.
And we're not coming out here saying, one of the phrases I want to avoid is you should do this, you should do that. I'm not saying you should do this, should do that. We're just trying to have conversations that get you thinking yourself about what you'd like to see out of this job. And like the TJ Hooker quote, I've seen the past and it works.
Yeah, I love that. How many people don't even know what TJ Hooker is?
Yeah, that's why I sort of paused before I said it. And TJ Hooker, look it up. It's a great show. But he has this line where he says, "I've seen the past and it works." You have a better William Shatner impression
I don't know
than
about
do.
that. I just love describing it, because he's like sitting at the bar talking to these guys, and he has his his glass with his whiskey and jingling the ice and everything. It's a great line. Yeah, you gotta see it. But half the people probably more than half are like, "What the heck is TJ Hooker?"
Yeah, and we that resonated with us, because we are getting to a point now where we've seen that, where we're not trying to be stuck in the past or the old ways, but there are some things in the past that worked really well, and they work consistently time and time again throughout history. So we don't want to throw those things out. There are some things that work and that will translate into the modern fire department and make it better, even though they are old traditions and cultural things.
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about as far as that stuff like that. There's little, whatever, they can be silly quotes or whatever. Man, they feel good. They feel good to hear. It feels good that someone else is saying something that you've been thinking about. And again, that plays into hopefully what this can be for you, for maybe a bunch of different reasons, where it feels good, man, that someone else is talking about this and someone else is having the same issues and working through it.
As Jimmy Rogers likes to say, amen, brother. I'm gonna take us out of the episode here with just a little closing thoughts here. So here we go. I love what this job should be. It's kind of a mantra or a refrain that we say often. At some point, we were all in love with this job and the idea of being firemen. And at the heart of it, I think whatever it is that called us in the first place, it's still there. It just gets lost in a lot of bullshit. One of our goals with the Fireground Company is to have conversations that bring that back, to spark that sensation that drew us here in the first place, to remember what the job should be, and in many ways, what we think it still could be. Leadership, culture, tradition. These are sort of the cornerstones of what makes the firehouse special. But if you let these things come from the top down, they're going to end up being kind of diluted and honestly artificial. And it has to start with us. It's our hope that this podcast and this company will give you some of the ammunition you need to fight for these values in your firehouse. In a way, we're here to discuss what has made the fire department great and a few things that could maybe make it great again. So tune into the Fireground Company Podcast twice a month for discussions on leadership, tradition, and culture.
I don't know if there's anything I can add to that.
All right.
This is a good ending.
Thanks for listening.
Check us out at firegroundcompany.com. You'll find links to all our social media accounts and our YouTube channel, and you'll stay up to date on everything we're working on. We also have a store on our website where you can support us as we grow this community, plus working on some great courses to help you strengthen your leadership in the fire department and support its traditions and culture. Last but not least, subscribe to the podcast, give us a rating, leave a comment, spread the word, get this out to the firefighters who are hungry to make the job even better.
The Fireground Company Podcast.